Manry for medical bills and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge. Case 2117, Forrest Stockton versus Manry.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Manry, this is your sister.
Correct.
And that is her.
Fiance.
And you have a son who is 19.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many other children do you have?
I have 3 altogether.
How old?
One is almost 30, the other one is 18, and then I got the 19-year-old, which one here.
Okay. And your son, who is now 19, is the subject of this case. Who had custody of the children?
I got custody of Dakota now.
When did you get custody of the children?
Only when he was 18 years old.
Do you have those papers, sir?
Yes, I do.
May I see them, please?
Michael produces a document, then hands it to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Okay, so this grants you, sir, legal and physical custody of Dakota Manry until further order of the court. So what this case is about now, and I assume from what I've read, that Dakota has certain special needs.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of his special needs, he is unemployed. Did he finish any sort of a high school?
He graduated.
He graduated from
Yes.
high school?
Yes.
Did he go to a special school?
He went to a regular school, but he was in special education.
And when he graduated, did he graduate when he was living with you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what your case is about. At some point, according to you, you have a niece. And your niece wanted to have Dakota come and stay with her for a couple of days. You were, at the time, according to your answer, sort of in between residences. You were evicted from one place and going someplace else?
I was in the process of moving. I got my niece to go with me to, ask her if she'll bring me to go get Dakota by my cousin's house. And she said, sure.
Okay. Dakota went to live, for a few days at least, at your niece's house.
No, not live there. No, not live there. No, ma'am.
Well, he was there overnight.
He was over there overnight. He asked,
How many nights was he there overnight?
I think about maybe a week. I was supposed to be
Okay.
3 days.
So he was there.
Yeah.
During that time, you, who are his aunt,
Yes, ma'am.
went to your niece's house and you saw Dakota there.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, became concerned because, according to you, it looked like he hadn't showered in a week.
He was in dirty clothes. He just looked awful.
So you decided to take him to live with you.
I asked him, I said, do you want him to the house to stay, a little while, where he can eat and all that, because he looked like he hadn't ate either.
Okay. Well, this is what your case is about. You decided to take him, didn't discuss it with his father. During the time he was with you, he had some expenses. You want his father to be responsible for those expenses, and you want his father to return certain of his personal property. That's what the case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First, let me deal with all things legal. I have an order here dated January 21st, 2021, which grants physical and legal custody of Dakota to his father. Do you have any subsequent order granting you custody or guardianship, is my question.
I have power of attorney.
That is not the same thing. Can I see what they have?
Power of attorney when I didn't give her permission. I got custody.
Jason hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Okay, this was signed by Dakota, so he's giving you legal power to act on his behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Dakota, by signing this power of attorney, he's saying that I am a whole person, and I give you the right to make medical decisions for me if he can't do them. It's a general power of attorney in case he becomes unable to make decisions on his own. This is an order of custody. You have power of attorney. Power of attorney suggests to me that Dakota wants to emancipate himself from his father, wants someone else to act on his behalf. It becomes a complex question because if Dakota has special needs and if he can't act on his own, and a court has already ruled that his father should have custody of him, either you have a power of attorney and he's emancipated, in which case his father's not responsible for any of his medical bills, or this is invalid because he can't sign a power of attorney because he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand all of the implications of this power of attorney. Now, your nephew was in special classes.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know what the nature of his disabilities are?
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Is that his diagnosis, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
He had, according to you, after you took him from your niece's house, and you do acknowledge you took him without his father's permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We was not talking, me and him.
It doesn't make any difference if you were
And so
talking or not.
I didn't have his number, and I asked Dakota, I said, text your daddy to let him know you're coming with me. Dakota said, and he showed me where he texted Michael. Now, I don't know if it was on a different Facebook page.
No, it's your responsibility to notify his guardian, who has custody, that you have taken physical custody of him.
Right.
And when did you take physical custody of him? Give me the month, day, and year.
May 20th of this year, 2022.
Now, while you had physical custody of Dakota, you indicate that he had surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And part of what you want Mr. Manry to pay for is the ambulance bill. What kind of surgery did he have?
Brain surgery, and he had a feeding tube put in him.
Just a second. What caused you to take him to a hospital or to a doctor?
Your Honor, when he arrived at the house on the 20th, he had very bad slurred speech and his balance was completely off. He was falling over. Your Honor, it was like he was a drunken man.
Let me go back to you for a second, sir. While Dakota was with you in the months just prior to May, did you notice Dakota having difficulty in his gait?
Not like he was explaining to me, I was going overboard.
No, did you?
But his balance was off, okay.
Did you inquire? Did you take him to the
Yes,
doctor?
I did. I took him actually right after I got him.
So you saw that balance was off a while ago.
When I noticed that he had headaches, all right, because his dream, thanks to me, was wrestling. He loves wrestling. I put him in wrestling. I talked to the promoters, and I did that for him. But when I seen every time he got body slammed, and this and that, I had to take him out of it. I got concerned because he was complaining of headaches. So I made him an appointment, and I waited for a referral. Well, when the referral came in, my kid was kidnapped.
So he never actually saw the second doctor?
No.
Okay. Do you have any records?
Well, I couldn't get the records. I tried to get them.
Once something went wrong, my kid died doing surgery. I couldn't even be there for him and all that. Anything could have happened.
Just a second. I'm following you, sir. Now, when did you take him for this brain surgery?
I took him the first week of June. I took him to do a CAT scan. And as soon as she did that, we went to the hospital. We didn't leave the hospital. They put him in the ER. And from the ER, we went to Florence, Alabama. And then the surgeons there couldn't do it because it was so big.
What was so big?
Your Honor,
brain.
they found a mass the size of a grapefruit. The first week, Dakota came to stay with us after we noticed the balance issues and the slurred speech. She took him to doctor who diagnosed him with being severely malnutritioned. Your Honor, when he came to my house, his
You're a liar.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Your Honor, sorry. My apologies.
his leg was no bigger around than my wrist.
I got it. Mr. Manry, everything has to be put in perspective. You had a lot of things going on. And if Mr. Stockton's reporting to me is accurate, even though there might be some bad feeling of the way your sister and her fiance took physical custody of Dakota, you really have to be in a position to say thank you to them, because you, for whatever reason, not for lack of trying, nobody is suggesting for lack of trying, you did try to take him to a doctor, you did see that there were things wrong with him. I understand that it's not always that easy to get the right specialist to get involved in this kind of surgery, but you really have to take a breath. Yeah. And I assume it's accurate, because I cannot assume that anybody would perform brain surgery on a child that was not necessary. That
okay, why she couldn't call me?
She should. Just a second.
When...
Just a second. Your sister should have called you and told you that Dakota was going into the hospital to have surgery. That would have been the nice thing to do. Did you do that?
She did.
No, she did not.
She called.
I called
their
my mama.
mother.
Well, calling your mother.
His phone was disconnected. I did not have the new number until he called me or texted me with a bunch of drama. That's when I got his
You took
number.
my kid from me. You kidnapped my son no matter what.
Mr. Manry, what I want you to do is just take a breath for a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Michael paces beside the defendant's table. Caption coming up.
Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and
No,
Daisy.
so far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jason, Mary, and Michael.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton claim Mary's brother, Michael Manry, owes for medical bills and personal belongings. Michael is countersuing, saying they illegally took his son from his custody.
Mr. Manry, Dakota was only at your niece's house for a short while. You already told me that when he came to you, his gate was off. So right before he went to stay for a couple of days at your niece's house, was his speech slurring?
No, he always had a speech impairment because of the disability, but his speech was not slurred at all. That is a lie. Him having the skinny arms and all, that's all
Okay,
lie.
I'm not talking about skinny arms. I'm talking about this his slurred speech. What I was saying to you, Mr. Manry, is that I don't think there are any bad guys here. I don't think that you're a bad guy. And I don't think that your sister and her fiancé meant any harm when they saw a situation that they thought was dangerous. And as it turned out, they were able to get him seriously needed medical care. That doesn't mean it was all done right. But what you're asking for is to be compensated by the defendant for the cost of the ambulance bill that you incurred. Now, this power of attorney was signed by Dakota, if in fact he had capacity to sign this power of attorney. It was done 2 weeks after his first surgery. So up until that time, even if I could construe this as a valid document, his father had legal and physical custody of Dakota. And I assume that's because he had special needs and is unable to live on his own. Is your son able to live on his own?
No, he never will.
Okay, so that's what I assume as a result of this order. If you want this order changed, you have to go back to the court in Mississippi. You have to be declared his guardian.
Your Honor, we did not want to be declared his guardian. The reason the POA came about to start with, during the entire surgical,
Your Honor, can I say something?
the father was aware of it, so was the mother. The mother was actually present at most all of the appointments.
It doesn't matter. The mother doesn't have
And-
custody, legal or
But
physical.
we were under the impression, and were told she did, that he only had a temporary custody. So she showed up to say she had to sign all the documents. She was going to do this. She was going to do this. She was going to do this.
Did she sign the documents?
She signed some. Then under social services directions, Mary was informed she should go after a power of attorney. It was discussed with both Dakota and her.
It may be. That's not a lawyer. That's bad advice. Now, just before I get to the issue of clothing, property, whatever he has that's at your house, and where it should go from here, your first stop is to go back to the court in Mississippi that issued this order.
Yes, ma'am.
And say to them, I need Dakota's law guardian. He'll be appointed a guardian for himself, independent of you, and they will interview him and they will do certain evaluations of him and determine where it is that he wants to live. But you have to do that in court. You can't do that ad hoc because you relied on his mother's statements that she had the authority to sign off on these things. She did not until this is changed. And if you want to change it, you are free to go in and try, and then Dakota will be interviewed and seen by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and he'll have a medical evaluation and determine whether or not he is a person who actually requires guardianship. And if he requires guardianship, you can petition for that, and you'll have a trial. This is not that trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Dakota have Medicare?
Medicaid.
He had Medicaid.
That would pay for the ambulance ride.
Yeah, I just want to know if he had Medicaid. He did.
I did give them the Medicaid number, and they keep sending me a bill, and I called them, and they said because it's a different state, it's not covered.
It doesn't matter. Tell them to send their bills to his father. Tell them that you do not have custody or guardianship of this child. His father has custody, guardianship, and this bill is not yours.
The bill is going to Dakota. They're going after Dakota for it. His Medicaid didn't pay for it.
They may be going after Dakota for it. They will be very smart seeking payment from people who can pay them, which is his parents. Right now, you're not legally responsible to pay for his ambulance bill. The only person who might be legally responsible for it is his father, and that will be up to the ambulance company to do. This is not your responsibility at all. So discount the ambulance bill. Next to Dakota's things, you want property that he has in his father's house. So let me go back to you with regard to my statement to you 4 minutes ago. You have to have this custody order modified. You have to go back to the same court that issued a legal and physical custody order of Dakota to his father and say, we would like guardianship of him. He wants to stay with us. He's 19 years old. He will be interviewed. He'll be analyzed. And if at the end of the day you get guardianship of Dakota, then his father may or may not turn over whatever property he has. Dakota's never worked. So whatever property he has was either purchased or given to him by either his mother or his father or other relatives.
A lot of it was his mom that paid for the stuff.
I don't know that.
No, the bottom line is why all this balls down through, Your Honor.
So far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about. You're not losing. You're not losing. What I'm telling the plaintiffs is that if they think that they can provide a more pleasant, stable environment for Dakota, they have the right to petition for guardianship of him. Now, it would be in Dakota's best interest long-term if he were to have contact with both his mother and his father. Contact. I'm not saying live with. Mother, father, and his aunt, and his soon-to-be uncle, as soon as you make up your mind and give her a ring. It's in his best interest. He needs the largest community that he can.
I agree.
Okay, we're going to stop throwing barbs because that only serves to inflame already raw emotions.
Caption, coming up.
I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted in this massive surgery that your son had, but I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jason, Mary, and Michael.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton have accused Mary's brother, Michael Manry, of owing for an ambulance bill. Michael claims Mary and Jason took his son without his permission.
What I'm telling you is a very simple procedural thing where you have to go. You can't sue him for the return of Dakota's things unless you have guardianship of Dakota.
Understood.
Because he already is the subject of a recent order of custody from a court. That's what you have to have. You can take that bill from the ambulance service, put it in an envelope, we'll get you the address, and that's where that goes. That's his father, who is his legal parent under this order. So send that bill to them, so you don't have to worry about that bill. As far as his property is concerned, that has to go along with an order of custody or guardianship, and that's something that you should do. But, Mr. Manry, I am not making a decision with regard to his custody or not. What I'm asking you is, until a court reviews whatever orders they're going to make with regard to custody and guardianship, first, I know you may be angry, but they probably saved his life by getting him to the doctor that they did. And if they removed a massive tumor from his brain, you should say, thank you for doing that, because it was a month after he was living with you. Someone else took your son and saved his life. And for that, at least, you have to be grateful. You can be angry. You can be angry that you didn't get it done before. You can be angry that somebody else did it without consulting you. You can be angry at all of those things. But at the same time, you have to feel grateful that it was done.
There wasn't no reason they kidnapped my son.
Okay, Mr. Manry, you keep going back to the same song.
I was worried about
You keep
him.
going back to the same song. And what I'm saying to you is, their next stop, if Dakota wants to live with them, and he's right now over 19 years old, is to the court who issued the order to modify that order. All I'm saying to you is, I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted or didn't participate in this massive surgery that your son had. But I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that. What I'm telling you is you have to love your child more than you, at this moment, dislike your sister and her fiance, because they were able to take control of a situation and get your child fixed. So is Dakota, just for my own, is Dakota angry with his father?
He's angry that his father won't return any of his wrestling. He is correct. He is a huge wrestling fanatic.
Okay. What particularly does he want? He wants his wrestling?
He wants his wrestling belts. They have replica belts that were made. He wanted his PlayStation 4 and the wrestling games.
PlayStation 4, I'm not interested in that. He wants his wrestling belts.
Yes, ma'am.
Yana, can I show you something right quick on my phone? Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and Jason.
What I'm telling you, Mr. Manry, that's for another court and another day. When Dakota has a lawyer, you may have a lawyer to modify this custody order. Right now, he would like his wrestling belts.
Oh, I want my son to come home.
Okay, then I strongly urge you to go to the court, file a petition against them for custodial interference, or you go to court and file an application for guardianship of Dakota, which is a much more positive thing to do, and let a court that has the social work services, the psychiatric services, evaluate Dakota and figure out in whose best interests are we supposed to place faith. And I think if he is a thinking young man, and you told me that he is because he wants these things that are important to him, he should be able to have a say with whom he lives. Now, you have my ruling. Your next stop, folks, is to modify the order of the court in Mississippi that gave his father custody, physical and legal custody of him. You have to petition for guardianship. That's your next step. So, in that regard, your case is dismissed. Send the ambulance bill to his father.
I got a countersuit,
We're done.
Your Honor.
Yeah,
Court is adjourned.
I'm not hearing it, sir.
Okay.
Outside the courtroom, Michael, then Mary.
I did everything I can for my kids, and
My brother, he said nothing but lies.
when somebody takes your kid without your permission,
But, you know, that's him. I mean, that's what he does.
you don't know where they're at, and you're going crazy because you don't know where your kid's at, that's kidnapping.
I should get a thank you out of it, but he's not going to do that.
I want my son to come home to his daddy because I love him very much. That's my son.
It's about him. It's not about her. It's not about her and her brother. It's not about me and her brother.
My son, I love him. I'll do anything in the world for him.
It's about Dakota.
In her chambers, Judy with Sarah.
So you didn't listen to the defendant's counterclaim back there for emotional distress for, I believe it was $3,500. I would have given that to him. I don't think anyone was acting maliciously in this case. Like you said to the father, he should be grateful that his son is alive and his sister took action when he might have been stumbling a little bit. But that's what that cause of action is for, when someone takes an action that was legally incorrect. And here, the plaintiffs had no legal right to take him to get that surgery. I agree that he should have had it and it all came from a good place. However, when you take an action that causes somebody else such severe emotional distress, and I would consider taking someone else's child in for the riskiest surgery that probably exists, qualifies as causing some severe emotional distress. So I probably would have awarded him that if I was ruling.
Well, so let me give you the reason that I didn't bother to hear it. I think the aunt and her fiance had nothing but pure motives in taking this 19-year-old who they say appeared to be malnourished, and they say was diagnosed as being malnourished, which is possible, and it's possible that it was all related to this brain tumor that he clearly had that was impairing his stability, and he was with his father for a year while this tumor was growing. I don't think that they had malicious intent.
Neither do I.
And I think that but for their actions, this 19-year-old boy probably would be dead. If they took out the tumor that was the size of a grapefruit, I would say 6 months later or 8 months later, there's a strong probability that would affect the optic nerve, affect the carotid artery, and gone. So although I could understand his annoyance, from the time they went to live with him until his surgery was a month. And I actually don't believe that this father didn't know where he was for a month, because they evidently have a living mother who they're both in touch with. He was moving around, phone disconnected. At the hospital, the mother showed up. She said, I can sign the documents. Well, you know, you're involved in major surgery for a child. Your focus is not on your brother, who did not take care of business for a year.
All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2106, Bentley versus Bentley.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Bentley, this is your sister.
Yes.
The case is relatively simple. Your mom passed away a couple of years ago. There was a house full of furniture that belonged to your mother. According to what I've read, and this is broad strokes, according to what I read, your sister, what's your first name?
Kelvis.
Put your mother's property in a storage unit.
Excuse me, it was already in storage.
Who had put it into storage?
My mom put it in storage. My mom was terminally ill, and she put it in storage 3 months before she passed away.
Is that correct?
Yes.
On what date did your mom pass?
November the 8th, 2018.
So it would have been in storage since August of 2018.
Correct.
From August till November, who paid for the storage unit?
I have been paying it.
And how much is it every month?
Right now it's $209, but it was $182 in the beginning.
But about $200 a month, and it's been 3 years.
Yes, I've been paying that every month.
This is what your case is about. You say that you gave your sister $900 for the purpose of traveling, getting your mother's things out of storage so that you could all disperse your mother's property.
Yes, but the amount is incorrect.
What's the amount?
I gave her $800.
Okay, $800.
Yes.
In order to get your mother's furniture to where you live, so that you could separate the furniture and the family could take what they wanted or needed of the property, correct?
That's correct.
Good. Then COVID struck, your sister didn't use that money to travel, to hire truckers, to move the furniture, and you want that money back.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the whole case. Okay. Just for my own information, you do expect when that furniture arrives to be one of the beneficiaries of that furniture. That's what your sister says. She says that that's the plan once it all comes back.
That's not correct. I didn't want anything out of the storage but pictures.
Pictures?
Yeah.
Well, pictures of things.
Yes, that's it.
Pictures of what?
There's a picture of me and my mother. That's all I wanted.
Did you tell that to your sister?
Yes, I did.
Did she?
No.
How many sisters are there?
It's only 2 of us now. It was 4, 2 deceased.
Did your mother have any other property?
My mother has a whole 2-bedroom home in the storage. She has furniture, everything.
Other than furniture?
No. Clothes, pictures, yes, things like that, yes.
Is there any property in that storage unit that you want?
Well, I'm holding her stuff because it's sentimental. I mean, I can get it, I wouldn't mind having it, but it's really, she got a lot of sentimental stuff in there, so that's why I've been paying.
Furniture?
Yes, furniture, clothes.
Furniture.
Pictures, everything,
Okay.
Yes.
How far away is the storage unit from where you live?
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina.
How far away?
10-hour drive. We stay in Michigan, and the storage is in North Carolina, Charlotte.
Anybody that you know live there close to the storage unit?
My aunt and my cousin does.
And this picture that you want, do you know where it is?
It's in the photo album with the rest of the pictures.
And other than that one picture in a photo album, you don't want anything else, any of the other property?
No.
You two are the heirs, is that right?
We have a brother.
Does he have, as far as you know, any interest in any of your mother's property?
No. When my mom passed, it was me, my niece, and my older brother there at the time of death. And so he got everything he wanted out, and he gave me the key because I was the next to older one because she wasn't there. So he was like, so y'all do what y'all want to do with it. And so that's when I told her, I'll pay it until we go get it.
You said, I'll pay for the storage unit until we go and get it.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'd like you to tell me about this money that she gave you. Do you remember when she gave you the $800?
She gave me the money, I want to say, May of 2020.
And can you tell me what the conversation was when she gave you the money?
Here is some money to go towards going to get the things, And so I told her, well, I'll find a way to go get it. I didn't never give her a designated time, but during that time, that was COVID, so no one was able to go. And so I was gonna go this year because I just signed the papers to go and go get the stuff, but no one still was able to go. She never once said that this was money loaned to go get it.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, she had designated it to go and get the property.
Yes.
And you didn't use it to go and get the property.
I used it towards the storage.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead, no.
The answer is no.
No.
So that's what her complaint is, that
Okay.
it wasn't used for its intended purpose, which was to go rent a truck, movers, and bring the property to where
Yes.
you both live. Okay, and she did give you $800.
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Bentley, you're prepared to sign a document that indicates that the only property you want from storage is a photograph of you and your mother that's in a photo album.
Yes.
That you want nothing else, that everything else belongs to either your sister or any other heirs that have a legitimate claim on any of that property, but you want nothing else.
That's fine.
Reasonable?
Fine.
Perfect. Oh, I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800 with the proviso that the plaintiff will, in fact, sign that document indicating she wants nothing but one photograph from the storage unit.
I gave her $150 back.
Did she give you $150 back?
She did give me $150
Okay,
back.
you paid her back. So she goes, you're $650. Judgment for the plaintiff, $650. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Shatanya.
It was my mother's stuff. I just was trying to get the stuff. It was in storage for long enough.
We haven't talked in a whole year.
We're not close.
You know, all she wanted is a picture. I give her a picture.
At least I got what I wanted.
We still sisters, still love her.
In chambers, Judy and Sarah.
Those look like two nice sisters. And I think part of that problem is the intervention of COVID, which really turned everybody's life upside down.
Especially family units.
Family units, because I think that that was the intention, that she was going to pay for it to all be brought up, use that money, and then they would go through the property and decide who wanted what and what would be disposed of. It's not an egregious case of misappropriation of funds.
All well-intentioned, I think.
Well-intentioned. I thought it was a sweet case.
Kevin.
Case 2111, Banks versus Mitchell. All parties, please step forward.
Queen Vanessa Banks is suing her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, for an unpaid loan and stolen money.
Miss Banks, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a city contractor for the city and county of San Francisco.
How long have you been working for the city of San Francisco?
30 years.
You a full-time employee?
No, I'm a contractor, so I'm used as needed.
Well, in the last month, how many days have you worked?
Like around 40 hours the whole month.
How do you support yourself?
I'm on disability
How long have you been on disability?
since roughly like around February of 2022.
When you applied for disability, were you originally rejected or did they accept your claim?
I was rejected 3 times, actually.
So when you started collecting in February of 2022, you got a big check for back disability.
Yes, ma'am.
I know my business. How much of a check did you get?
I got
Don't think.
$7,000 the first time, and they just submitted me like $8,000 a month or 2 ago, and then there are some more coming. It ain't all came yet.
They advised you, because you were rejected, as you said, 2 or 3 times, that there would be a total amount coming to you. You got a letter from the administration.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And what is the total amount that they told you you would be receiving in increments?
I think it was like $18,000.
And you had a lawyer at the appeal.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you applied for disability, did you say that there was no kind of work that you could do?
Caption. Coming up.
I'm jaundiced. I know that people put money in somebody else's bank when they want to hide it from the government, creditors, a spouse looking for support, all what I would call nefarious reasons to put money in somebody else's bank.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Queen and Fulton.
Queen Vanessa Banks claims her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, stole money from their shared bank account.
Now, when you applied for disability, did you say that there was no kind of work that you could do?
Well, actually,
No, not actually. They're giving you $18,000. They said that they should have taken your case when you first applied for disability. So they had to have found that you could not hold gainful employment. That's what it's all about when you get federal disability.
right.
Right. So I want to know what this 40 hours a month that you worked last month as an independent contractor. What kind of independent contractor were you?
I actually sit on Zooms, and I am a consultant, so I'm on Zooms most of the time,
And when you're not on Zooms, where are you?
at home.
What do you consult about?
I am an urban consultant, so I work with various people that's trying to find out about urban living and mental health, basically working around mental health.
How are you paid?
They might mail
No,
a
not
check.
might.
They mail a check.
What do you do with that check?
I usually cash it at a store in the community.
You cash it. What is your hourly wage?
As a consultant,
Yeah.
I'm usually paid like $130 an hour.
And what's the amount of money you get from disability a month, not counting these extra payments for when they denied you disability?
$1,000.
So you get $1,000 a month plus $130 an hour times the last month you said was 40 hours. So you make $4,000 or $5,000 a month from your consulting job for the city.
No way.
Well, am I correct, Whitney, that Ms. Banks said that she worked about 40 hours last month?
Can I explain something? Not
No.
all.
No.
She said around 40 hours the whole month.
Okay. Would you tell me what she says she earns an hour?
It's usually $130 an hour.
$5,200. And when you get the checks for these consulting things, you take them and you cash them. That's either a
Yes,
yes or a
ma'am.
no. Do you work as a sole independent contractor, or do you have an LLC or a corporation?
No, ma'am.
So the checks are made out to you.
Yes, ma'am.
As an independent contractor,
Yes, ma'am.
you have to pay your own taxes. So you're 1099 from all these people?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you declare on your taxes last year?
I didn't file taxes last year, ma'am.
Why not? You said you've been working in this capacity on and off for 30 years.
Because,
For the
ma'am,
city.
where I come from, a lot of the work is volunteer work considered, and you are given a stipend. And some of the work I do, sometimes I don't even get paid, but I still do the work.
Listen, you know exactly where I'm going. We're two savvy people. When you cash those checks, because this is what the case is about, for some reason, because I'm trying to figure out why somebody puts money into somebody else's bank account, because part of this case is about that. You and Mr. Mitchell became friends, maybe a little bit more than friends, I don't know. At some point, according to you, you gave him money to hold in his bank account because his bank account was closer to where you are and you didn't want to go on two buses to where your bank was. Am I getting that right? Is that what you...
No, ma'am.
Let's see. I'm telling you why I made these inquiries to you. I was struggling to find a way to get access to my money. I always took the bus to the bank, but during COVID, public transportation shut down or was completely unreliable, and I was in a bind. This is what you write. When Fulton heard about my problem, he offered to hold my money for me in his bank. He said that he didn't keep any money in that account, so it would be perfect, because his bank was right where I worked. I only know of several reasons why strangers put money in somebody else's account. You know, I may have an account with Sarah. I may have an account with one of my other grandchildren. I have an account with my husband. But I've had a best friend for 70 years, another best friend for 30 years, and I would never think of putting money in their bank account because there are banks all over the place. I'm just telling you, you know, I'm jaundiced. I know that people put money in somebody else's bank when they want to hide it, when they want to hide it from the government, creditors, a spouse looking for support, a spouse looking for alimony, a contractor who has a judgment against them. All what I would call nefarious reasons to put money in somebody else's bank. But let us say that you did put money in this bank account, and you say that money was withdrawn. Your money was withdrawn from that account to pay his taxes. Is that what you're alleging?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How much was withdrawn from his account that only his name was on? Or was your name on it too?
My name is on it too.
Oh, there we go. Now I can understand it, why you might owe taxes. I don't know anything about his business, but I can certainly understand that you might. Did you receive notice that the IRS took money out of this bank account, which was then a joint bank account?
No, I did not.
So if her name was on it too, it was a joint account?
It was not. It was my account, and I added her name to my
That's
account.
okay. That makes it a joint account.
Yes.
Okay, well, I didn't have that information in here because joint account is absolutely different. Joint account means that the money belongs to both of you. Now, what makes you think that the money that was taken out of the account was to pay his taxes?
Because I have proof, Your
I'd
Honor.
like to see it.
Queen hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
What account is this? Whose money is that?
Mine.
Explain that to me. This is a deposit here for $988.68. What is that?
That's when the pandemic hit and the struggles started getting hard trying to get money. And being that me and him was business partners, that's when he decided to try to help me out.
You know, I neither have the time or the interest to hear about the nuances of this stuff because I don't have the wherewithal, either emotionally or structurally, to figure out the whole scam. I haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm beginning to figure it out. So you deposited $988 and then withdrew at some point in May. That was on June 9th. I don't have the rest of it here, but you withdrew $1,600 from that account on May 25th. Do you remember what that was for?
May 25th?
Yeah, May 25th, $1,600. June 3rd, tax levy, $2,711.
The May 25th is because that's my daughter's birthday, and I spent time with my daughter. And then the June 3rd tax levy is why I'm here with you today.
What kind of business were you in together with the defendant?
You want me to answer that?
No, you answer it. What
type of business were you together? He works for the city and county. I'm a grassroots organizer, so I work within his organization so that we can do things together.
That's not true.
Your Honor, I have proof. I do work with his organization. I'm putting on a Halloween event.
I don't
Here's
care.
his logo on
Let's
there.
understand each other. I don't care because something doesn't smell right for me. And if something doesn't smell right with this nose, it's usually accurate. Usually.
Caption, coming up.
You said you took out $1,000. When and for what purpose?
I took out the $1,000 and I gave it to Miss Banks.
That's not what you said.
What did I say, Mr.
It's not what you said. It's not what you swore to.
Queen grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Queen and Fulton.
Queen Vanessa Banks is suing her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, for an unpaid loan and stolen money.
When someone puts money in somebody else's bank account, it's because they're trying to somehow shield that money from some sort of scrutiny. If your only source of income, which you would like me to believe, is this $1,000 from disability and the $18,000 that you're going to get for retroactive disability.
She was on some other kind of services also. I don't know whether it was SSI or something. When she first came to me, she wanted me to hold the money and put it in my account because she didn't want it to mess up her money.
That's not true. That's not true, Your Honor. He started helping me in 2019. In 2020, he asked me for a loan to help one of his daughters of $1,900. We were both trying to start up a business. We didn't know the pandemic was going to come, Your Honor. We was trying to start up a business.
I've never tried to start up a business.
Just a second.
Your Honor, I got proof because he lying to you.
Just a second. I don't care that you were starting a business. It doesn't make any difference to me. It really doesn't make any difference to me. You had a joint account, and the IRS took money out of that joint account. Was that your tax debt?
I don't know.
The answer is you don't know. Okay, well, this says that it was the levy from California Franchise Tax Board was against Fulton W. Mitchell.
That's me.
That's what it's...
I asked her to show me that. I said, prove it to me. No, she never showed me that ever.
Okay, so my question to you is, sir, because you have to pay your own taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? You would acknowledge that this bank account had only her funds in it?
No, it had my funds in there, too.
Show me any deposits that you made into this account.
Well, I had money in there way before I put her money into my account. It's been in my account for over 10, 15 years.
What I want to see, Mr. Fulton,
yes,
is any place where you deposited $2711, because that's what they took out.
No, I didn't deposit $2711 into that account.
Ever?
No.
Okay, good. This responsibility is yours. You would acknowledge that it's yours?
Yes.
Okay, so that's $2,700, which you in fact owe her. She probably owes IRS or the state of California more money because I'm not sure that they know where all this money is going. Did you take any other money out of that account?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you did. You took out $1,000. You acknowledge you took out $1,000 by accident, you said, sir, and you said you paid it back.
She got it back.
Okay, well, then don't say,
Honor.
shh, don't speak. You got into enough trouble, right, so far. You said you took out $1,000. When and for what purpose?
I took out the $1,000 and I gave it to Miss Banks.
That's not what you said.
What did I say, Ms. Judy?
It's not what you said. It's not what you swore to. You said, there was a time when I accidentally withdrew $1,000 from the account that belonged to Vanessa, but I paid her back in June 2022.
There you go.
I said, what do you mean, there you go? I said, when did you take money out of her account?
That was the only time I took the money out.
Well, tell me about it.
Vanessa started harassing me. She started showing up to my job and just doing all kind of stuff, so I was just trying to get rid of her.
And?
So I took the money out and gave it to her. And I'm
just a second. Put your hand down. Don't you understand what you signed?
Yeah.
You said I accidentally took money out of her account, but then I gave it back to her, because if you accidentally took it out, it means it didn't belong to you. When did you accidentally take it out, and when did you give it back to her?
I took out the money, and the money was given to her. That was it. That was it. I was done with it.
Well,
I was done with her. I was done with all of it.
There was a time when I accidentally withdrew $1,000 from the account that belonged to Vanessa, but I paid that back in June 2022.
Those words are mixed up a little bit there.
That's what I read. That's your answer, sir. As for the rest of the money she claims I owe her, it's all a bunch of lies. I never took a $1,900 loan and don't owe money for the IRS. Well, you do owe money for the IRS, because one of the things I think that everybody has to pay is their own tax levy and their own child support. You would acknowledge that.
I agree.
Okay, tell me about this loan of $1,900, Ms. Banks.
Mr. Mitchell had fell into a lot of hardship in the pandemic, and he came to me and asked me, could I loan him $1,900 to help out one of his daughters? And I gave it to him, and he agreed to pay it back, and we was just like trying to handle business together. And I thought he was a friend.
Show me proof that you gave him $1,900.
It was cash, Your Honor. The $1,000 he's saying he handed me back in June, that was from the $1,900.
I'm not following you, madam. Are you saying that he in total owed you, forget the IRS, $2,900, $1,000 that he took in 19?
He asked for $1,900
Never asked
cash.
you for $1,900.
I gave him $1,900 in cash.
Not true.
Then he paid me back $1,000 in June of 2022.
You have money in my account. Why would I ask you for $1,900? I would just go in there and grab it. That makes no sense.
Just a second. Why are you talking to her?
I'm sorry.
Where do you think you are?
I'm sorry. I apologize. She's never given me no $1,900. She's never given me anything in cash, period, ever.
I have proof.
I'm willing to look at it.
Yes. I told him that I needed to move forward with it, and if he don't give me what I need, I'll put it in writing. So
well, you
we
may
had to
put it in
talk.
writing. Well, you sent this to him, and it says acknowledgement of monetary debt in the amount of $4,600. You typed this up, and he never signed it.
No, he never signed it.
Yeah. Well, then it's meaningless. You can type up anything. I can type up something that says I own all of Sarah's real estate. If she doesn't sign it, I don't own anything.
Well, that's where $1,000 came from, because he was trying to cover that.
Yeah. You know, somehow I think I'm dealing with, I'm not sure about one or two people who've managed to master the system. And
No, not at all. I've never-
well, I don't know.
I've never
I don't
used
know.
the system
All I
for
know
nothing.
is if
I worked
somebody
for
is
over
working.
25 years
Just
for
a
the
second.
city and county.
Just a second. There's a reason why she asked to be added to your bank account. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't look as if you're a foolish man. What was the reason she gave you for wanting to have a bank account where you were the primary on that bank account? What was the reason she gave you?
She gave me the reason that she didn't want it to mess up her income.
That's not true.
Just a second. So she said, I don't want it to
She said she didn't want to put it in her name because she didn't want to mess up her income that she had coming in.
Her income from what?
Some kind of assistance. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Whatever. Anyway, got a nice windfall, $18,000. By the way, I have one other question for you. In your complaint, which you read and signed and swore to, Fulton heard about my problems with money and where to put it, and he offered to hold my money in his account. He said he doesn't keep any money in there, so it would be perfect, because his bank was right where I worked. Where was his bank, and where do you work?
I work in the community that I was born and raised in, which is Bayview, Hunters.
Okay, I'm not going to get a straight answer. You owe her for her tax debt, nothing else, $2,700.
This court is adjourned.
That's it, you're done.
I'll watch her like every day.
It was fair.
I'm thankful that she saw what it was for what it was.
You know, she asked me to put some money in the account for her. I did.
I never had to harass him. We were business partners for 2 or 3 years.
I don't know if it was a business agreement or not.
Because I told him I want my money.
I'm just happy it's over with.
You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking that I wouldn't have had that.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2139, Stevens versus Stevens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Although your names sound the same, they're spelled differently, and you are clearly not related based upon this case. You live in the same general area.
Yes.
Okay. Could you step up?
A young woman.
Tell me your name.
Emily Feringer.
This is your daughter.
Yes.
How long have you been living in your house?
8.5 years.
How old are you?
22.
Tell me what you do.
I work at a bakery right now, and I'm a full-time college student.
Where do you go to school?
Idaho State University.
You were out walking the family dog.
Yes.
Family has one dog?
Just one, yeah.
What kind of dog?
It's a miniature schnauzer.
Weighs about 10, 12 pounds?
Yeah, around there, 15-ish.
How old is the dog?
He is 9.
You've had him since he was a puppy?
Yes.
This case has to do with injuries that your dog sustained.
Yes.
And the payment of vet bills by the defendant, who you allege has 2 dogs unleashed that attacked your dog while you were walking.
Correct.
Him.
Just one dog. One dog.
One.
One dog attacked our dog.
You have a pit bull?
Yes, ma'am.
What color?
White and brown.
How old?
She's 5.
Is that the only dog you have?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what date you were walking the dog that this incident happened.
July 26, 2021.
Time.
Around 8 p.m.
Dark?
No.
Still light out?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you walking in the neighborhood?
I was walking down the sidewalk, and I passed the defendant's house, and I reached the end of the sidewalk.
Your dog's name is what?
Jax.
On a leash?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always walk the dog on a leash?
We do.
Tell me what happened.
I was walking down the sidewalk, and I reached the end of the sidewalk. I was about to cross the street, and...
Do you have a picture or diagram?
I do. I
where
have a
this
diagram.
happens? May I see it, please? Oh, okay. There it is. Would you go over to the diagram so that you can point directly and I can understand where this happened?
A map of the street corner.
I was standing right here, and I noticed the dog come up on my left side.
On your left side?
Yes.
Did you notice from where the dog came?
It seemed to be out in the street when it approached me.
So it didn't come from the defendant's house, it came from the street?
Yes. It had been on the left-hand side of me. And then the pit bull latched onto my dog on its leg.
What color pit bull?
Brown and white.
Was there any fighting or a scuffle before?
No, ma'am. It just ran up to me, and it latched onto my dog's leg, and it picked my dog up and was yanking it around in the air. And it was very loud, and my dog was squealing a lot and crying out very loudly, so I yanked his leash so that I didn't have to bend down and get hurt myself. And I picked him up, and I ran back.
So you yanked him up by his leash?
I did.
Okay. Did he have what kind of a collar on? A regular collar or one of those harnesses?
We have both, so I'm not sure which one he was wearing at that time, but I believe he was wearing the collar.
Just the collar?
Yes.
So you lifted him up by the collar?
Yes.
Did you see where the dog went?
I do not remember. I think the pit bull ran back into the defendant's household.
But you're not sure?
I'm not sure.
What did you do next?
We took the dog to the animal hospital.
Okay. You can go back now.
Emily rejoins Audrey at the plaintiff's table.
Stand close to you.
Sorry.
Had you ever seen this dog before?
I have.
Where had you seen the dog before?
I've seen the pit bull in multiple places around the neighborhood. I've seen it across...
That same dog?
Yes. I've seen it across the street in that across the street neighbor's yard, and I've also seen it in my yard, and it's also been next to my chain link fence before.
Did you or you, Ms. Stevens, ever have a conversation with the defendant about the dog being unleashed?
I have not spoken to her at all.
For how long have you seen her unleashed dog out and about?
Probably about 10 times.
Have you ever said anything to your mother about seeing this dog outside?
I have.
Okay. I'm listening.
Yes, ma'am. May I show you on the
Absolutely.
On the diagram? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all.
No, don't tell me first of all.
Okay.
Were you there at approximately 8 p.m.
Yes,
on July 26th?
Correct, I was.
Okay, where were you? Show me where you were.
I was right here. I was loading a fridge into my home. I had my dog right here in the middle of the driveway, chained to the fence, okay? She came from across the crosswalk here, because I have a witness as well to show. She came from the crosswalk with her dog in front of her. She came across right into my driveway. The dog went into my driveway, and my dog went up to her, and they began to fight.
You're going like this.
Yes.
You're going like this. I don't want you to go like this.
Okay.
So your dog was on a chain.
Yes, ma'am.
A chain that extended almost to the end of your driveway.
Correct.
So show me exactly with your finger.
Okay, yes.
Where you say this confrontation between the pit bull and the schnauzer took place.
Right here, ma'am.
Well, you're pointing to about now you keep moving your finger.
Right here.
Heather points at the end of her driveway. Caption coming up.
You know that I don't believe that your dog hasn't been out and about in the neighborhood, unleashed.
No, ma'am. I don't let my dog off a leash.
We do have pictures of the dog as well, if you'd like to see those.
Oh, do you?
We
Yes.
You mean out and about?
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Audrey, Emily, and Heather.
Audrey Stevens claims her neighbor, Heather Stevens, owes for vet bills after her dog was injured by Heather's pit bull.
Now you're moving your finger. So you're saying it's right at the end of your driveway.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a second. It was up further 5 seconds ago.
Okay,
Now
my dog was right here,
yeah,
ma'am.
Yeah.
The fight occurred right here.
Well, now your finger is at a different place, madam. I'm
Well-
just letting you know your finger moves up the driveway.
Right, I'd say right here.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Heather returns to the defendant's table.
You know that I don't believe that.
I know you don't believe that,
You,
Your Honor, but
you
that's
know,
what happened.
you know that I don't believe that your dog hasn't been out and about in the neighborhood. Do you know that I don't believe that? I don't think she's lying to me that your dog's been out and about in the neighborhood. Unleashed.
No, ma'am. I don't let my dog off a leash.
We do have pictures of the dog as well, if you'd like to see those.
Oh, do you?
We
Yes.
You mean out and about?
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
And this is after.
Shh.
Sorry.
I don't care before or after.
Yeah.
She just said, I don't let my dog go out without a leash.
Well, this is the injury.
Audrey hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She looks at 2 photos of an unleashed pit bull.
Ms. Stevens, these pictures belie the fact that your dog is out, leashed only. Do you want to see the photograph?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Kevin brings the photos to Heather, who reviews them.
Yes, Your Honor, I do see that, but I was outside with my dog at that time.
I don't care whether you were outside with your dog or not. You said your dog is never out without a leash. That's not true. That's not true. Were you a witness to this?
Yes, ma'am.
Be very careful. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
A woman rises.
Tell me your name.
My name is Karen Brennan.
Are you a neighbor?
No, I am a friend
A friend of whose?
of Heather Stevens.
Go ahead.
Well, on that day,
On what day?
on July 26, I was helping Heather with the fridge.
With
and
what?
With the refrigerator. And I was approaching the driveway,
Just a second. You were helping her with the refrigerator doing what?
bringing the dolly out so it can be moved
Bringing the dolly out from where?
from the side of the house.
And?
And I looked over and I saw the little dog, and it caught
You
my eye.
saw what?
The little dog. And it caught my eye because every time before, anytime I would put the dog out, Miss Stevens' dog, that little dog, if it was in the backyard, would continually bark at.
Just a second. Did you put the dog out that day?
No, I did not that day. But I recognized
So
the
you
dog.
did not put the dog out
No,
that day?
not that day.
Okay. What time did you get to Miss Stevens' house?
Mid-afternoon.
What's her dog's name?
Lily.
Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon?
When we were...
Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon? That's either a yes or a no. When you were there. That's either a yes or a no. Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon when you were there? You said you got there mid-afternoon. This happened at 8 o'clock. Was the dog chained to the fence all the time you were there? Yes or a no? Or I don't know. No.
No.
Where was the dog?
In the backyard.
Until what time?
Until around 7-ish or so. I don't know the exact time, but it was mid-evening.
Okay. And what happened at that time when the dog was moved from the backyard outside of the backyard? Who moved the dog?
We went to go get the refrigerator.
No. Who moved the dog?
Heather did.
She took the dog from the backyard.
Yes.
Just a second. To the backyard to the driveway. Just to the driveway, because that's where she pointed out that the dog was chained to the driveway fence.
Yes. when we came back we went to go get the refrigerator.
Just a minute. Well, you didn't tell me, so you left the house.
Yes.
What time did you leave the house?
Mid-afternoon. It was like...
What time?
Approximately 4 or 5.
Okay. And the dog at that time was where?
With us in the vehicle.
So you had the dog in the car. So the dog was in the backyard.
Yes.
And then from the backyard, the dog went with you in the car.
Correct.
And then what?
And then we picked up the refrigerator, and we came back, and then she had chained her.
Okay. So from the car, the dog went to the fence, which is chained sort of midway up the fence, according to the defendant, sort of midway up the driveway.
Correct.
Is where she chained the dog.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Then where did you go?
And then I went to go get the dolly and bring it around so we could get the fridge out.
Okay, and where did Miss Stevens stay?
She was in the driveway.
And it was when you were coming out of the backyard that you saw Miss Stevens in the driveway?
Yes.
And saw the little dog?
Yes.
She was in the driveway. Was she next to the dog? Go over there and point out where she was, would you, in the driveway?
Karen points at the driveway.
She was...
She, Miss Stevens?
That Miss Stevens, yes.
Your friend?
Yes.
Was right in the middle of the driveway, near where the dog was chained?
Yes.
And show me where the defendant's house is, because you had been in the house earlier that day. Point on that diagram where the house is.
Right here.
Where it says defendant.
Yes.
That's the whole house. And where's the front door?
Right here.
Up there. And where's the porch on the front door?
Right there.
Okay. Now, that's not where she was. She was in the driveway.
Correct.
Okay, now go back. Now I'm going to read to you what your friend Miss Stevens wrote and swore to in her answer. I was standing on the porch, maneuvering the fridge inside, and I saw a little dog sniffing around and walking up my driveway. She said she was on the porch.
Well, she was back.
That's where she said she was, on the porch. I know the plaintiff's dog is a barker since it has come to the backside of my property and barked at my dog through the fence. The dog walked all the way up the driveway to where my dog was. Now, you want to think back? Miss Stevens says she was standing on the porch. You were very certain she was standing mid-driveway right near her dog. Which one is it?
Well, we were trying to maneuver the fridge, so we were back and forth.
No. Which one is it? Was she on the porch, which is all the way at the other end?
Yes.
Or was she mid-driveway?
Mid-driveway.
She was mid-driveway. So Miss Stevens lied when she said she was on the porch.
Caption coming up.
I didn't look at a police report. I listened to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I listened to your witness.
Yes.
And you and the witness that you brought told two divergent stories, two totally different stories. She was your witness.
Heather's eyes widen. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Audrey, Emily, Heather, and Karen.
Audrey Stevens is accusing her neighbor, Heather Stevens, of losing control of her pit bull. Heather claims Audrey's dog ran onto her property.
So Miss Stevens lied when she said she was on the porch. That's what she says in her answer. I was on the porch when this happened. You understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
Sit.
Karen sits.
Can I see your vet bills, please?
Your Honor, I have a video of my dog. Can we present the video that I have brought?
You mean for that day?
Yes, ma'am. No, not for that day. No, not for that day, but just to show you that my dog is not vicious. That she likes to play with little dogs.
Clearly not on this day. She didn't like to play with other dogs.
That dog is constantly barking at my dog in the backyard, and that's the only, my dog loves dogs. I have obedient record.
Miss Stevens.
Yes.
I want you to understand something.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether the schnauzer is a barker or not a barker, I told you, I didn't believe you when you told me that her dog was off leash. I didn't believe that. Either you or your witness lied. I don't know which one. So I'm going to have to assume it was your witness. Do you want me to assume it was your witness or you? So one of you lied. She says you were in a totally different place. She was coming out from the backyard. That's where she was. She had gone to get the dolly. You said you were maneuvering the refrigerator up on the porch.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, who is telling me the truth? You want to tell me?
It was a very hectic day.
It was a very hectic day.
Yeah.
And I have photographs of your dog, despite the fact that you tell me that your dog is never off leash, always on leash. I have 3 photographs taken 3 different times of your dog being off leash. Now, there's no question that your dog caused the injuries to the dog.
This has been going on for over a year in court. They dismissed it in criminal court, and there's a reason why they dismissed it.
Just a second.
Yes,
You're going to try to tell me why they dismissed the case in criminal court? You have a document. I mean, I understand that they filed a criminal case against you.
There was a criminal case that was dismissed, Your Honor.
That's okay. That has nothing to do with this civil proceeding. You know, somebody may not want to put you in jail because you let your pit bull roam around without a leash. Somebody may not want to put you in jail, but you are clearly responsible for this dog's injuries. You are. If you have a pit bull, and pit bulls can be dangerous dogs, they can turn on a dime and cause serious injury. Pit bull lovers, I don't want to hear from you. I've been going through it for 25 years. Some of them are nice, some of them are not nice. But when they're not nice and they turn, they have configurations that can cause a great deal of injury. One killed a woman who was babysitting for it.
I understand you.
So you do understand.
I believe, may I say something? I believe that a dog is how it was raised, okay? I've raised that dog from a baby. She's never been mean like that. That dog that lives next door, which is Miss Stevens' dog, yaps at my dog every single day. She goes outside, yaps, 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 yaps at her.
So what you're telling me is your dog, so if what you're telling me is that your dog had the right to be aggravated because the dog yaps at her all the time, that's not a reason to let any dog, but especially a dog that has potential to cause injury, out without a leash. And you do that regularly, and you can't do that.
Your Honor, can I also add that I did have a brief interaction with Miss Stevens on the day that it occurred, and it seemed like she did come out of the street with the dog. I don't believe she was in the driveway. She offered help for me.
She did?
Yes, before I went home.
And where was
Not
she?
to interrupt, but we also have video of her acknowledging fault with the officer's body cam video.
What is that?
They have a body cam on when he was talking to her, when she said she's really sorry and she's going to pay the vet bill.
Oh, may I see that, please?
Body cam footage.
Getting ready to take her for a walk. We were moving in a fridge.
Oh, okay.
And she jumped out of the car when she seen that little dog, because I was getting ready to get in the car and
Gotcha.
right on the corner here.
Okay. So were they just across the street then?
No, they were right here.
They were just right here on the sidewalk. Okay.
I'm going to pay the bill, I know, and whatever I got to do.
Yeah, so she's down at the clinic now.
It was a bite on him, on the shoulder, I think.
On the shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was just protecting me.
Sure.
That's all. And I'll pay the bill.
That you're responsible
And I want to
for, so-
apologize.
Sure.
I feel bad. I do feel bad about it. I do love dogs. I'm a dog lover. And I do feel bad. And I believe she just said, the defendant just said that she was in the street when that happened. It was in my driveway that happened, Your Honor. I'm just saying, we want to be honest.
Was your dog on a chain?
My dog was on a chain, Your Honor. Another thing, I never got my side of the story added to that at all. It was all one-sided. The whole police report was one-sided, Your Honor.
I didn't look at a police report,
I have
madam.
one right here.
Just a second. I didn't look at a police report. I listened
It's
to
all
your.
one-sided.
I listened to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I listened to your witness.
Yes.
And you and the witness that you brought told 2 divergent stories, 2 totally different stories. She was your witness.
Yes.
Easily confused, but she was your witness. And you should have prepared her better, consistent with what your answer was. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor. I wasn't trying to.
Very, very good. Okay. Pain and suffering, unfortunately, is not yours. If you had had injury to yourself, and I think that the law is a little crazy there, but we can gauge pain and suffering for an animal. Anyway, your vet bills were $435.
Your Honor, we just added that just because, you know,
I understand.
Blatant disregard and the dog's still out all the time.
Oh, no, excuse me. The total with tax was $441. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Emily, then Karen and Heather.
It's been a struggle just because of how long it's been going on.
It was a crazy day.
The dog almost got to our dog's leg bone and broke it.
Because the dog is always japping at my dog.
It was pretty scary.
So it surprised me that that happened.
He was bleeding and everything.
She's not vicious whatsoever.
We ran him up to the hospital.
The animal control never get in my house.
I had a feeling that Judy would see right through her, so.
I love dogs, and I felt sorry for the little dog.
I'm happy about the settlement and how we got our money.
Judy and Sarah.
I'm not even going to get on my soapbox with regard to dogs that are potentially dangerous. There's no question that this lady has a dog that she's had from a puppy, and the dog has never caused her any difficulty, but there's also no question that she lets that dog.
And from Ed, moving his plane.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Case 2145, Lee versus Meyer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lee, you are an amateur pilot?
Yes, I was yes.
And you owned your own plane?
I bought it to train in, yes.
When did you purchase the plane?
In, I believe, April of 2021.
Did you buy it new or used?
I bought it used.
What kind of plane is it?
It's a Cirrus SR-22, 2010 type Golf.
What did you pay for it?
I paid $420,000 for it, I believe.
Is there a mortgage on the...
Yes, there is.
How much?
It's $2,204 per month.
You paid $425,000 for the plane?
Yeah, I put a down payment on it. The outstanding balance is $347,000. The payment per month is $2,022.
I don't need the payment per month. I just wanted to know what you paid for it and how much you put into the plane.
Yes.
The defendant is a pilot, licensed pilot, and he was giving you some training on the plane.
Certified flight instructor, yes.
It is your claim that at some point, you'll tell me when, that the defendant was operating the plane by himself. You weren't there, and he was moving it from one part of the FBO to another part, and he hit a cone and caused substantial damage to the propeller and the engine. And while you had your insurance did cover some of it, according to you, it did not cover all of the expenses, and you want Mr. Meyer to be responsible for that. So it's a simple question. Mr. Meyer, do you remember the date that you were operating the plane when Mr. Lee was not there?
Yes.
What date?
It was in April sometime.
April of 2022?
Correct.
Do you remember the date, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
What date?
It's April 22nd.
Would that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. And from what I read in the papers, Mr. Meyer had in fact taken you out, but then the weather got bad. You decided that you would make your way home and that he would get the plane home when the weather was better.
Correct.
And that was on or about April 22nd.
I flew home on a commercial flight the day before on April 21st.
And you stayed with the plane?
Yes.
Now, would you agree, Mr. Meyer, that if in fact you hit an object with the plane, it would be your responsibility?
Yes.
Because it would mean that there was some sort of negligence involved.
Right.
And then there would be the issue of damages. Mr. Lee, you were not present when this incident happened.
I was not.
Not present.
I was not present. I was able.
No, you were not present.
I was not present.
That's the answer. Was this witness present?
He was not present, but he was the one responsible for procuring the evidence on what happened and how the propeller was damaged.
Who does he work for?
He has his own flight school, and he also manages my airplane in terms of the maintenance and the upkeep.
Okay. Could you step up, please?
A man rises.
Tell me your last name.
Last name is Williams.
Mr. Williams, were you charged with gathering the evidence to determine what happened to the plane on the 22nd of April?
Yes, I was.
And you're paid a monthly fee by the plaintiff to manage his plane?
That's correct.
Did you retain the defendant as an instructor, or did Mr. Lee?
That was both decided by Mr. Lee and Mr. Myers to fly for him.
But you
He's
did
an
not.
independent contractor at that.
You did not have anything to do with, as the manager of the plane, you didn't have anything to do with selecting Mr. Meyer.
I did select Mr. Meyer to fly with Albert.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. Because were you the one who introduced him
That's
to Mr. Meyer?
That's correct.
When, Mr. Lee, did you start to work with Mr. Meyer?
It was probably a prior flight where we flew to San Francisco for a business meeting I had. After that, I believe it was...
In what month?
Roughly about the same month.
In April?
Yeah, in
so
April.
you didn't
maybe
know
more.
him for a long time?
No, not very long.
I'm going to get back to you in a minute, Mr. Williams. Prior to the defendant, had anybody else been an instructor for you?
Yes, Clinton was my primary instructor, but I flew with some other instructors as well.
But it wasn't until the month that this incident occurred that you had been connected with the defendant?
Correct.
Okay. Now, sir, how were you advised that the plane that you managed was in an accident?
I received a phone call from Ed saying that there was a problem.
From whom?
From Mr. Myers, that there was a problem with the aircraft after he taxied and did the run-up and returned the aircraft back to Signature in Las Vegas. We notified and contacted a
Did you ask, what you would usually ask is what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Just a second, and what did he say to you?
He said that he was having instrument problems with the aircraft and he wasn't able to take off, so he returned the aircraft. At that point in time, I contacted a service center, had 2 technicians go out look at the aircraft, see what was wrong. At the time, the technicians found that they...
Don't tell me what they found.
Okay.
You can't tell me what they found. It's hearsay.
They send me pictures of the damage of the propeller.
May I see the photographs?
Clint hands a tablet to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews a photo of a damaged propeller on it.
Okay, so that's a fresh damage.
Correct.
Can I scroll this?
Yes, you may.
Or it's just one? Okay, so you have a picture of that. You have a picture of the cone that has a slice in it.
Correct, that's the object he hit. We also have a video showing the plane taxi and hitting the cone at the...
I'd like to see that as well.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what we got.
As you can see where the...
Just one second, Mr. Meyer, is that a fair and accurate representation of where the plane was before you moved it?
It should be on the last, on the far left side of that Learjet.
Okay.
Footage of a small plane running over a traffic cone, then dragging it.
Oh. Mr. Meyer, do you see that you went over a cone?
It's interesting. I didn't even notice there was a cone.
You may not notice it, but you see it now.
Yes.
Okay.
Caption, coming up.
Your hitting of the cone caused damage to that plane. I mean, you're not talking about flying a 747. You're talking about a little single-prop plane. Yeah, they like those planes you put together, we used to put together with rubber bands. I wouldn't put my behind in one of those planes for all the money in the world.
Whitney grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Albert, Clint, and Ed.
Albert Lee claims pilot instructor Ed Meyer is responsible for damage after Ed moved Albert's plane.
Okay.
In all of my years of flying, which is pretty significant, I was an airline pilot too, I've never, ever experienced that in my life.
Okay, but you see it now.
Yes.
It's not an on purpose. It's, you know, that's why they call them accidents. We don't mean for them to happen.
Right.
We don't mean for them to happen, but you do see that the plane did hit a cone.
Right.
Okay, and I have photographs of the cone that has a slice in it, and the same kind of slice from one of the propellers. Now, so that's conceded that Mr. Meyer did, in fact, hit the cone, which in all probability caused damage to the plane, caused damage to the propeller. Now, tell me about your insurance.
The insurance covered the propeller. They covered the teardown of the engine. When something strikes the propeller, they have to tear apart the engine, make sure the components...
Do you have those,
I
that
do.
paperwork for me? I'd like to see it.
Okay, so here is the insurance-covered portion, and here is my covered portion that I had to come out of pocket to pick up the plane.
Okay.
And I can explain both invoices.
Albert hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
And if you flip to the last page, that'll have the total. Insurance covered about 60-something thousand for the propeller and the engine teardown.
Okay, so the damaged propeller, Mr. Williams, causes you to have to take apart the engine, fix the engine if there was damage to the engine. Am I correct?
That's correct. The FAA requires anytime you strike an object with a propeller, the engine has to be inspected in the component parts. So they...
Component parts of the engine?
Yeah, with the damage, potential damage of the engine. Internal damage that could be caused by striking an object.
Okay, the insurance covered how much, sir? Mr. Lee?
It's, sorry, it's on the invoice, I think it was 63,000, 64,000. It's on the last page.
The last page shows
a deposit of
$63,000.
Yes, that's it.
The deposit was 40, balance due was 23. Did the insurance company pay the entire
The entire
$63,000? This is what was submitted to them.
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like you to take a look at this, Mr. Meyer. No, I'm going to actually ask Mr. Williams to take a look at this document. These are the items, Mr. Williams, that Mr. Lee says were uncovered. I would like you to go through all those items and tell me which of those items relate to the engine and which do not.
Okay, is this the total?
Carefully, because I'm going to potentially ask you about each individual thing, because there looks to me like some things that bear no relation to an engine.
Okay, so most of the items you see that are airworthiness on the airframe are the items that need to be inspected or replaced from the teardown. So your item 1, item 2, 3, 4, item 5, 6, 7, 8. These are all items that the repair shop goes through the engine and assesses whether it needs.
Well, tell me how the brakes would be impacted.
I don't think
impacted by hitting the.
Which invoice?
And I don't know, but how brakes would be impacted by hitting a nose cone.
Brake lining, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Yeah, some of these items, Your Honor, such as one of these items, the brake lines, as you pointed out, is probably not part of the.
Well, that's what I want you to go through, sir.
Okay.
Do you understand? I want you to take a marker, a pen, and circle, because I don't know a whole lot about airplanes, but I know a little bit about airplanes. I know what's routine maintenance and what has to be taken care of, because a plane either falls on its nose or falls on its tail, both of which I've experienced.
Well, this is a small invoice. This is not your, this is a 12.
Mr. Williams, don't ask him. I didn't ask you to have a conference with him.
Okay.
I asked you to look at that. You're the management company. I want you to strike those items that are not related to this accident and go through them very carefully, because.
Can I make a comment? Okay.
Nope.
To you directly?
Nope.
Okay.
Can I ask you something?
Can you ask me something?
Yeah. Well, they should tell you those cones are made of plastic.
I don't care. They're heavy cones. You hit the cone, and the plane flew perfectly fine before you hit the cone. It didn't run after you hit the cone. You don't have to be a genius to figure out the cone caused, your hitting of the cone caused damage to that plane. I mean, you're not talking about flying a 747. You're talking about a little this is a single prop plane?
Right.
Yeah. Me, they like those planes you put together, we used to put together with rubber bands. I wouldn't put my behind in one of those planes for all the money in the world.
The only items I can see, Your Honor, are 2 items that may not be related to the accident, items 7 and 8.
Okay, may I have that back, please, sir?
Clint hands the document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
And you are familiar with planes, sir, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're saying is item
The circled item.
7 and 8.
Correct.
So we have.
There's a couple of invoices.
We have right and left main gear, but which is 143 plus 270 plus 66. What about item 9? Pitch, trim, jab, nut, loose. What is that?
Probably what they do during the inspection and the tear down, they go through the aircraft itself, make sure it's airworthy. So they probably caught another item or 2. You can probably put that on item that's wasn't part of the accident.
The big ticket items are adding up all of these items, Mr. Meyer, that probably have no relation to the accident which you caused.
Correct.
Still bring the total amount to more than this court's jurisdictional limit. Can you tell me, sir, why your insurance, Mr. Williams, let's go back to you. You manage this plane. Can you tell me why Mr. Lee's insurance didn't cover all the damage to the plane?
A lot of the prospective renters or instructors that everybody uses, or we used in this case, carry their own insurance for this type of incident. Their insurance covers basically downtime, loss of operation, or in this case.
You mean Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Would have his own. Do you have your own insurance?
No.
No.
Caption coming up.
Don't you do a check to find out if they have their own insurance before you recommend someone?
He had insurance, but it was lapsed.
If you have insurance that's lapsed, then you have no insurance.
Yeah, that's correct.
So you're lucky that he's not suing you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Albert, Clint, and Ed.
Albert Lee is accusing pilot instructor Ed Meyer of hitting a cone and damaging his plane. Ed says Albert was already paid by his insurance company.
Mr. Williams, you were the one who recommended
That's
Mr.
correct,
Meyer.
we did.
Don't you do a check to find out if they have their own insurance before you recommend someone?
He had insurance, but it was lapsed. It
Well,
lapsed.
that he didn't have insurance. I get that all the time. If you have insurance that's lapsed, then you have no insurance.
Yeah. As a flight school, our instructors are required to carry the insurance.
Okay, but that
And then
didn't
we-
happen here.
That's correct.
So you're lucky that he's not suing you because you managed the plane for him. And you recommended him, Mr. Williams, you know. When you have a management company that manages your plane, they're supposed to make certain that if you have a certain kind of plane, that you have pilots certified to fly those kinds of planes. And if they give me a list of pilots and those pilots aren't certified to fly the kind of plane that I might have, then it's the fault of the management company.
In this case here, the plaintiff and the defendant were working together as far as their payment and the fees they were going to charge.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. They may have been working head to head. I mean, it was Mr. Meyer's fault, but I'm just telling you that Mr. Lee relies on your advice. What business are you in, Mr. Lee?
I do commercial real estate. I sell shopping centers and office buildings.
Okay, that's not his business. That's why he hires you. And if he hires you, he asks you for recommendations as to where to get the plane repaired for an instructor. Now, the fact that he may pay him independently, he's relied on you for information. So I suggest, Mr. Williams, that you tighten up your ship a little bit. Mr. Meyer, you're responsible to the plaintiff for the damage that you caused his plane. Why did you let your insurance lapse?
It had lapsed. I just didn't even realize the fact that it had lapsed. I just realized the fact that when this came about, that's what happened.
Well, when was the last time you paid premiums?
Probably about a year before that.
Anything else you want to tell me, Mr. Meyer? You owe him $10,000. You caused the damage. You have to fix it. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Ed, then Albert, and Clint.
I understand her point, the fact that what she saw.
I thought she's very fair.
These cones are made out of plastic.
It's hard to believe. It sounds like a gunshot when he hit the cone and triggered several warnings. And for him to say he had no idea, it's a little bit hard to believe.
They don't have much weight to them.
With the loud bang after you hit it, it's quite obvious that you should have stopped and shut down and inspect the damage.
There normally is never a cone at the 12 o'clock position. They're at the left side and the right side.
They place cones all the way around the aircraft, and it's part of your responsibility as a pilot in command to do a walk around pre-flight, make sure there's no object in front of your aircraft.
When I taxied out halfway down, that's when I recognized there was an ICAS message that came on.
I finally got it back, and no more student pilots, so won't let any CFIs fly for a while.
Judy and Sarah.
You know what I thought about in this case, Sarah? That lay people have to look at something, lay people, and while I'm a judge and have certain expertise, I have no expertise in reading slips that show what's been done on a car or an airplane or a train or a boat.
But we have common sense.
But we have common sense. And your brakes are not part of an engine. Yeah. You know, you have an engine job, and then you have a brake job, and you have a...
I saw where you were going.
different kind. And, you know, if you have an accident that impacts on the right driver's door, if you put in a new wheel casing in the left rear door, well, that has nothing to do with an accident.
Probably just an oversight. He did state that those two items were not part of, you know.
He did.
He did at the end, but...
Joseph's 15-year-old son hit Carrie's vehicle.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge.
Good morning.
Case 2138, Cargill versus Simonet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Carrie.
Ms. Cargill, you and the defendant's son had an accident while you were driving your car, and Mr. Simonet's son was driving his electric scooter.
It was like a skateboard, a one-wheel skateboard.
Judy gestures at a young man who rises.
Tell me your name.
Jacob Simonet.
Describe this vehicle that you were riding on.
It's got 2 spaces for your feet. Has one in the back, one in the front.
No, try to look at me. I'm trying to see you.
Oh.
Trying
There's
to
one in the
go
back,
like this.
one in the front, and then there's a big wheel in the center. And you put your feet on either side, and then it balances, and you ride it kind of like a skateboard.
Oh, I actually
I had a
have
feeling you
picture
might
of
need it.
myself riding on one of those for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We bought it for one of my grandchildren years ago, but it's motorized.
Yes.
It has a motor.
It's electric.
And how fast does it go?
Tops out at about 17 miles an hour.
17.
Yes.
That's pretty fast. Are you required to drive that on the street where pedestrians walk or where cars ride?
On the sidewalk with the pedestrians.
Sidewalk.
Yes.
Do you drive it on the sidewalk?
Yes, I do.
Do you ever drive it in the street?
I do not.
Now you're going to tell me what happened on the date of this incident, which was August 17th.
This year, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was going south after work, and I was going to crossing through the intersection. I had the green light.
Is there a chart?
Yes. Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I was crossing the intersection.
You're the blue car.
I'm the blue car. And I had the green, it was going, and Jacob had cut through on the red into the green and slammed into the side of my car. He had cut through the intersection.
So he was in the street where the cars travel?
Yes.
Not on the sidewalk?
Right. He was not in the walkway.
Okay. Jacob, I want you to walk up to that sign and show me where you were when you and the plaintiff collided.
I was about right here.
You were in a crosswalk?
Yeah, I was in the crosswalk coming through and about
Okay,
right.
is that what, Jacob, is that what the police report is going to indicate? That you were in the crosswalk?
I don't know.
Well, I assume that there is a police report. Is that correct? Police report's going to tell me where the debris was, I assume. The debris is either going to be in a crosswalk or it's going to be in the street. Where do you think it's going to be?
Some of it was in the street.
Show me the street that you're talking about.
About like right
No,
here.
put your finger on it. Don't go around where it's
About right here.
right there. That would be in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be in the middle of the street where the cars travel, not in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yes,
Judy turns to Joseph.
it's easy.
Sure.
How old is he?
15.
15. I've had a whole bunch of those who are 15. You know when they're telling a fib?
How?
When their mouths are moving.
He's a pretty good kid.
All of my kids are pretty good kids. But you can always
Figure
tell.
it out, huh?
Yeah, you can usually tell. Is this your first only?
Both, first and only.
First and only. Oh, well, she probably had some experience with that anyway.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, and this happened at what time during the day?
I believe it was about 4, a little after 4, 4:30.
So it was light out.
Yes.
You collided with her car on the driver's side.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, on the door of the driver's side.
The fender.
Fender.
Yes.
Side fender?
Yes, side fender.
Okay, not the front of the car.
The front fender of the car.
Front fender of the car on the side. I'm talking about it was the side or the front?
The side.
Side. So you collided with her.
Yes.
Because cars don't move sideways.
Yes.
He could have been quite seriously injured.
Yes, he could. He hit the side of the car and he flew up onto the hood and then kind of rolled across the hood, hit my windshield, and then fell onto the ground. And when I stopped, he jumped up, appeared at my window, and apologized, and then asked me if I was okay.
What did he say?
Just said he was sorry. And then he asked me if I was okay. And then I asked him if he was okay. And then he asked me if I was okay. And it went back
So
and
far,
forth
is that
a little
right?
bit.
Yes.
Okay.
And which I was very impressed by, that he was more worried about me than anything else. I moved my car out of the road, onto the side of the road. There was an EMT that was across the street from us, and he came over and assessed him if there was any more damage. He got some road rash and things like that, but he was not seriously hurt, at least that we noticed at the time.
Do you have the police report?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please, Kevin.
Carrie hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
She reviews it.
One witness said that he was right next to you and that you went past him and that the light was red. His light was red, which is why he was stopped. That's what I'm reading. He did say that his light was red when the kid initially passed in front of him. Did you get a copy of this police report?
I've seen it, yes.
Explain to me, would you put on this again and leave that one on because that's the version that I believe. Would you walk over there and explain to me what cut the corner was, what you were doing? It talks about cutting the corners. So I want you to understand, I believe that, based upon what I'm reading here, I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want you to show me how you cut the corner.
So I was coming to this one, and I went through, and instead of going here and just going through the sidewalk, I just went like around here and through this crosswalk.
What's cut the corner?
Cut the corner here, right there.
You mean just that little space is what you're talking about? You cut the corner?
Yeah, I went from about...
I want you to understand, I believe that you were in the street. I believe you were in the street, not in a crosswalk. So let's run through that again. Would you please show me what cut the corner was?
Went through here, I came here, and I cut here. So right there, I cut the corner.
Judy gestures for Jacob to return to his table.
He is a nice boy, Mr. Simonet.
Thank you.
Caption, coming up.
You know what my father told me when he gave me my first car? I think I was 17, but it was like a tank. He said, because if you get in an accident, I want you to be surrounded by 4,000 pounds of steel.
And later today,
Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. I just want you to tell me how much you won.
Before taxes or after?
Both.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Carrie, Joseph, and Jacob.
Carrie Cargill claims Joseph Simonet owes for damage after his 15-year-old son hit Carrie's car while riding an electric skateboard.
Okay. The police determined that based upon the eyewitness testimony that the pedestrian, Jacob, is at fault and believed to have crossed the intersection before having the right-of-way. The vehicle had the green light. In any event, do you have photographs of your car?
Carrie with a photo.
This happened in August, and you were called to the scene by your son, is that right?
Correct.
And you got there, you know that he was a little banged up, but thankfully...
He was in
okay.
an ambulance when I arrived, but shortly after, yes, he did walk out of the ambulance and suffered some injuries, which I have pictures of if you'd like to see them.
I'm sure he was banged up. He had bruises from falling off the...
From being launched from the vehicle after the collision, correct.
Okay. You know, he was really lucky that she wasn't going faster.
Correct. Could have been much worse. We were
Could have been much
thankful
worse.
for his health and the outcome of the incident.
You're right. Okay, can I see an estimate to fix your car, please?
A document.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge.
Judy reviews it.
What kind of a car do you have?
A 2015 Equinox Chevy?
You had full coverage on the car, is that right?
Yes.
But with a $1,000 deductible.
Yes.
So if you put this through to your insurance, you have a $1,000 deductible.
Yes.
Right? Anything else you want to tell me, Jacob?
No.
Do you still ride one of those things?
It's broken. I didn't get a new one, no.
It was destroyed in the accident.
You know what my father told me when he gave me my first car? I think I was 17. He bought me the oldest, ugliest car, but it was like a tank. All my other friends were getting these nice, cute little cars, and this one was like an old person's tank Cadillac or something. You know, we're talking 50 years ago. And I said, why do I have to have this car? Everybody else has cute cars. He said, because if you get in an accident, I want you to be surrounded by 4,000 pounds of steel. That's pretty much the lesson that I've sent out there. 4,000 pounds of steel. One and only, surrounded by lots of steel. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you, we're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Carrie, then Joseph.
Overall, I'm happy.
She had some fault due to hitting a pedestrian in a crosswalk.
It was surreal, like out of the movies.
Your heart stops, and all you can do is look for the car keys and panic and get there as fast as you can.
I am so glad that he was okay.
I remember just flying through the air, and then I was on the ground, and I got right up.
Be very careful.
Count your blessings and enjoy every moment that you have, because things could change in an instant.
Sarah and Judy.
I know these electric scooters and skateboards are very popular, but even before this case, I tried to look up any rules, laws, regulations. There are a few for electric motorbikes and things like that, but far fewer than I would expect for a machine that can go up to 17 miles an hour when you're 15.
I think that you're right. I think that since those things have become so popular, there really have to be enforced rules. And parents, and this is a very nice father and son, but I've seen kids weave in and out of cars. It always looked like an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, and this one could have ended in a real tragedy.
He was lucky, and his father knew he was lucky.
Yeah.
Case 2124, McPherson versus Hall. All parties, please step forward.
Gerald McPherson is suing his ex-girlfriend, Natasha Hall, for money she received during their relationship.
Mr. McPherson,
Yes.
how old are you, sir?
40.
What kind of work do you do?
Home care aid?
Independent, or do you work for a company?
Home care aid agency.
For an agency?
Yes.
How long have you been working for them?
About a year now, but I've been doing home care for about 3 years.
Prior to working for them the past year, and you're still working for them, is that right? Was there a period of time when you were unemployed?
Not more than maybe 3 weeks, but since I know Ms. Hall...
No, I don't want to know about Ms. Hall.
No, I'm telling you my employments that since I've lived in her residence, I've always worked. I worked at the zoo, Census Bureau.
Don't try to think ahead of me.
Okay.
There was a period of time in 2020, according to you, that you became homeless and were living in a shelter.
Yeah, that...
And that was in what month in 2020?
In June. So if I can explain the situation. I was living in a house that a slumlord wasn't doing the repairs. So I ended up forcing his hand, him selling the property, and the new landlord and my...
Could you look at me when you're talking?
I'm sorry. The new landlord and my other ex, they kept the property. I moved out. I went to a shelter because I didn't want nothing to do with her or the...
You're talking about her?
No, ma'am.
Well, then don't keep pointing to her. I'm asking you...
I'm just pointing in general. I'm not pointing at her.
You actually pointed
I'm sorry.
to her. When you were in the shelter, were you employed?
Yes, for the Census Bureau,
Okay.
doing the census. I was actually out in the field knocking on doors. I was an enumerator.
So you were not working in home health care, you were a census taker.
At that time, yes.
And did you have a child living with you?
Yes, well, not in the shelter, no. I could not have my daughter in the shelter.
How old is your daughter?
10.
And where is her mother?
She's deceased.
Where was your daughter living when you were in the shelter?
With my mother.
Is she living with you now?
She's been with me since June.
In a new apartment?
Yes, I moved in August 1st.
She goes to school from your apartment?
Yes.
Okay. In 2020, you became acquainted with Miss Hall, and there came a time shortly thereafter, uncross your arms, and there came a point shortly thereafter when you moved into her home.
In August, yes.
Of 2020. And you remained in her home until what month and year?
August of 2022.
And in what month and year did you regain custody of your daughter?
June of 2022. So
there was a period of 2 months when you and your daughter lived in Miss Hall's home.
You could say that, but...
Well, I'm saying that because I just asked you a question about timeline.
No, because me and Miss Hall was going through our dispute about this money, my daughter was staying with my grandma. I only brought my daughter there on certain occasions.
When I say you regained custody of your daughter, was that a court order?
Yes, I have it right here.
Just a second. Was the child removed by court order from your custody?
It was removed because the house...
Don't tell me because.
Yes,
it was yes.
Yes.
I have lots of things to do today.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Child was removed from your custody.
Because I didn't have nowhere to live at the time.
Was the child removed from your custody before you moved into the shelter?
She was removed because I was in the shelter.
Did you take her to the shelter?
No, I was not allowed to because there's no men.
So at that time,
female
did she go and live with your mother?
Of course.
Was that by court order?
No, it was
brought her to your mother?
Yes.
May I see the court order that involves custody, please?
Here you go.
I'm not getting an answer.
This is the court order, and this is these two forms.
Gerald hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Now, that court order is the current.
Okay, so the child was placed with the Commissioner of Social Services in Pennsylvania. And the child was placed in kinship foster care, which is a program that I am very familiar with the child's paternal grandmothers. So in June of this year, the child was returned to your custody. At some point in August of this year is when you and the defendants separated and you left the house. This is your claim. Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. What kind of gambling thing?
Caption, coming up.
I don't want to go back to the year Gimel, sir. All I want you to do is tell me how much rent you were paying her.
To be honest, I had to.
I don't know. I want you to be dishonest with me.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Gerald and Natasha.
Gerald McPherson claims his ex-girlfriend, Natasha Hall, wrongfully spent the money he gave her for rent.
Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. What kind of gambling thing? I want you to look at me when you talk, not at the papers.
No, I was going to.
In what kind of gambling thing did you win money?
I betted on 25 games.
What 25 games?
NBA, college, hockey.
Okay, and you bet where?
On FanDuel. It's an app called FanDuel.
Okay, and you won?
Yes.
I don't understand the whole thing. I don't want to learn the whole thing. I don't care about the whole thing. I just want you to tell me how much you won.
Before taxes or after?
Both.
Okay, $36,742, and after taxes, $26,889.
On what date?
So I won the bet on the 28th. It came into my account.
28th of what?
January.
Of what year?
This year.
And you had been living with Miss Hall for 2 years?
Prior, yes.
Okay, and you were working according to you all of that time?
Yes.
Okay, good. Were you paying any rent to Miss Hall?
I have receipts.
Yes, I want to see those. How much rent were you paying?
So when I met Miss Hall...
I don't want to go back to the year Gimel, sir. All I want you to do is tell me how much rent you were paying her.
To be honest, I had to pay
I don't know. I want you to
rent.
be dishonest with me.
Half her rent is like $425, and she had me pay half the gas and half the electric and half the cable.
Her rent was $425?
No, it's $850. I had to split it. We're
$850.
paying half and half.
Miss Hall?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I do customer service.
And who else lives in the apartment with you?
My children.
How old are they?
14 and 13.
How large is the apartment?
It's a 2-bedroom.
And the total rent is $850?
Yes, ma'am.
There's no subsidy involved?
No subsidy at all.
Okay. And you have a lease?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you charge, if anything, Mr. McPherson as rent?
$425.
Well, that doesn't quite sound fair, does it? Did she make a figure with you of $425?
I paid more than that. I paid $425. That's half of the rent. I paid half of the electric and half of the internet bill.
There are 4 people in the house.
Yes.
Right? Why is he paying
we're
for...
only
Shh.
2 people.
Why was he paying for half the rent?
Oh, my children don't work, and his child didn't work either.
His child wasn't with you?
The child came with us in June, but she had visitations on weekends.
I don't care if she has visitations. Your children live with you.
Yes.
They don't have to work. They're your children. They're not his responsibility. Okay, I just want to know where everybody's head is at. There came a point, Miss Hall, when Mr. McPherson gave you $6,000 in cash.
No, not in cash.
Check.
No, both of them was wired. One was directly wired into our Bank of America account.
What? Just a second. When?
The first transaction was on January 31st. The second transaction...
January 31st of?
This year. And the second transaction was the next day, February 1st. $12,000 total.
Do you acknowledge, Miss Hall, receiving $12,000 in your account from Mr. McPherson, or do I have to look at his records?
I do not acknowledge. He gave me $6,000 and $4,500.
$6,000 and $4,500, Mr. McPherson. Does that sound right?
No, it's not right, and I'm going to show you.
Let me see your bank record.
All right. Hey,
and
sir.
Let us assume that it's $6,000 and $4,500 that he gave you in this year, 2022.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Let us assume for the moment that you're correct, because you're suing for $6,000.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because the first initial $6,000 was 8 months' rent. That I'm not.
Let us assume that you are correct, that he gave you $6,000 and $4,500. I'm taking you at face value. In January and February of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the money for?
That he gave me?
Yes. The 2 different amounts of money.
Yes.
There's a $6,000 and a $4,500.
$4,500 was for me to pay my car note off. And
hey, just a second.
Go ahead.
Why would he pay your car note off?
He said he wanted to.
Oh, no. That's ridiculous. Ms. Hall, let me just check.
Can I say something?
No.
He even wrote that on there for your car note.
No, you said in January he won a bet and cashed it out. A few days later, he gave me money via Cash App to catch up on his rent and as a thank you for helping him out. I don't see anything here about gift for a car note in your answer.
So he gave me the money for the car note, and as far as the Cash App money, he gave me money lots of times. So yes.
No, I'm talking about the $6,000, madam.
Yes.
Let us assume he gave you $4,500 to pay off your car note. That's what you said.
Correct.
What's the $6,000 for?
The $6,000 was for us to move.
For who to move?
Me and him.
Show me.
The $6,000?
Yeah, show me that there's proof. He says he gave you the money according to his complaint to hold for him.
Yes.
Shh.
Just
a second.
A document.
Yeah, February 3rd, he gave you $6,000. This just says he gave it to you.
Yes.
And?
And he told me to hold it so we can move.
Well, you didn't move.
No,
you didn't. Shh. He told you to hold it for him so that you could all move.
No.
So who could move?
So me and him and our children could move.
Well, that's what I just said.
I apologize.
So that we can move.
Correct.
But you didn't move together.
Correct.
So you have to give him his money back. That's simple.
Thank you.
Just a second. That's simple. If you say he gave you the money so that the two of you could move and that event never took place, but he in fact moved out, you owe him $6,000.
But then he agreed.
Just a second. That's an easy. Okay. Do I have to deal with anything else? Money for lost wages, rent, utilities? Forget it. He paid all of that with the $4,500 when he paid off your car note. Come on, let's get it together. Lost wages. What are the lost wages for?
But then I had to take off from work because of the PFA, and I had to take off from work to go file out the court and things like that. But in the midst of him saying the $6,000, he didn't pay rent. He didn't pay all of his rent.
He paid off your car note. You owe him $6,000. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Okay.
This court is adjourned.
Natasha.
Well, I don't agree with the judge's decision. I don't think I owe him the money.
That's what women do.
Because he gave me a gift and he didn't pay rent.
I also spent $2 grand on her in gifts.
What's done is done.
I'm taking a break from women for quite some time now.
Sarah and Judy.
So I'm glad that the plaintiff's daughter didn't have to go into the larger foster care system and was able to stay with plaintiff's mother. But I was curious that if this was a temporary slip up and he wasn't going to be permanently without housing, why wouldn't he go with his daughter to his mother's house? I was surprised you didn't ask him that question.
You're right.
and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case 2143, Simpsons versus McGowan Jr.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Simpson, you lived with Mr. McGowan for, looks like 7 years is what you said.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. It was off and on.
What do you mean off and on?
Well, I had another residence as well.
Okay.
And
it's going to get more complicated, I see, than less complicated. You lived off and on, according to you, with the defendant's brother, who is now deceased. Yeah. It is your claim at one point in your papers that you and the defendant's brother were married.
Yes, ma'am.
He passed away.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that the defendant owes you money. He was the executor of the estate, and he owes you money for property that he took from the house and for filing a false police report against you, I assume indicating that you took things from the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. McGowan says that you and his brother were never married, while he indicates in his papers there might have been some sort of ceremony of marriage.
Yes.
That his brother somehow must have told him that he never filed the marriage license, so the marriage was never valid.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, let's go to that for a moment.
Yeah.
Yes, it's sort of curious and takes me back to law school days. And believe me, that really tests my memory. Were you at the ceremony where your brother married the plaintiff?
No, ma'am, I was not.
When did your brother tell you that there was a marriage ceremony?
I probably heard it just throughout life.
You mean throughout life for how long?
From the time that he had any dealings with her.
So about 7 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked your brother whether he was married?
Yes.
How long ago was this?
I would say 4 years ago.
Okay, so 4 years ago, you say to your brother, I understand that you, what's your first name?
Mona.
Mona got married.
Well, so he gave me an insurance document, and I was like, wow, what's going on? What about all this?
He gave you an insurance document that said what?
From the VA indicating that I was going to be the person that gets the money upon if he demise.
If he died,
right? And
you had a VA insurance policy.
Yes, ma'am.
With you as the beneficiary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so he showed you the insurance policy.
Well, he sent it to me in the mail.
Okay,
or email or electronic. And so I said, wow, what's going on? So then I started to ask different questions, and he said, well, don't worry about that. We're not legally married.
No, you have to tell me. I said to him.
I said to him, so doesn't your wife
Isn't she the beneficiary?
I don't want to be involved in all this.
Right.
And he said, I am not married. We went through a ceremony, and you have 10 days to file the
marriage license.
The marriage license in Las Vegas.
Okay.
To solidify the marriage. And then he said, I never filed it. We are not married.
May I?
Just a second. Did your brother tell you that he had ever told Ms. Simpson that he never filed the marriage license?
No, we never had that conversation.
Okay, well, because you say in your answer, sir, that my brother was too smart for that, he never mailed in the license.
Well, he told me because there was a problem between these two. And so we talked about that, and he said, no, I'm not married to her. And he said, you have to file the document, and I never filed the document, and I have a copy of that right here.
Ms. Simpson,
yes, ma'am.
Tell me when this ceremony took place in Las Vegas.
April 2013.
Did you travel there with Mr. McGowan?
Yes, ma'am. We moved to Vegas together.
Who was at the ceremony?
It was no ceremony. What happened was I don't know what this is. What happened was we went to the Justice of the Peace, and the 10 days is not accurate.
No, don't. Don't
apologize.
Don't tell me.
We had 1 year to go to like a pastor or minister or something like that because we just went to the Justice of the Peace. In Vegas, they give you a year to do it, whereas it's, I guess, what I think the term is officiant or something. Officiant has to do it so you can become married permanently.
So you knew that you were not legally married?
Well, it was legal, but it would be official if you don't do another step within a year. And
I understand that, but you never did the other step.
We didn't, only because he was sick, ma'am.
I don't care what the reason was. I don't care if he was watching Yellowstone or because it doesn't matter why.
I respect that.
What? You can get hooked on that.
No, yeah.
I understand.
So
No,
I
and
don't
that's-
care
and
what the
that's right.
reason is. You knew that your marriage, because it wasn't confirmed, according to you,
Yes,
within a
ma'am.
year, that you weren't legally married.
Yes, ma'am. And that
Okay, just a second. That's all I want to know. That makes my life much easier. Because, Mr. McGowan, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Under what you told me, under the events that you told me, so you should have kept your mouth shut.
No, it's okay.
No.
It's going to be okay in the end. It's going to make a lot of sense in the end.
No, I understand that it's going to make a lot of sense to me. We're going to follow the money. But I just want to tell you and the people who are watching this that when I thought about your answer, that you said your brother was too smart and didn't file the necessary document within 10 days, my view of that scenario was that she could still consider herself his wife. Because if he fraudulently, in an attempt to deceive her, didn't mail the marriage license in, she would be the beneficiary. I'm just letting you know that. You understand what I just said?
Yes, ma'am.
Because he committed a fraud on her. He would have committed a fraud, your brother, on her into leading her to believe that they were a married couple and they had the responsibilities and the benefits of a married couple. But she says she volunteered that she knew they weren't married.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to address that.
And it's okay.
Just
Your
a
Honor.
second. I know where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So Mr. McGowan, the person that you were involved in for a period of years, on and off, you had your own place, but he was ill for a certain period of time. Was your brother ill?
No, ma'am.
No. Just a second. He says no. You say he was ill for a great portion
When
of
I
that
first
time.
met him.
Shh. Just a second. For a great portion of that time, and that you were his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid as his caregiver by the government.
The VA, yes, ma'am.
By the VA to be his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that would be inconsistent with being his wife, to be his caregiver. Because if you're a wife, you don't get benefits from the VA. If you are a non-relative and caring for somebody who requires assistance, you may get assistance. And how much was the VA? Just answer my question. This is not my first rodeo.
Okay, I understand.
How much was the VA paying you a month to take care of, what was your brother's first name?
Marcus.
How much were you being paid to take care of Marcus? Because you say that one check you didn't get because of him. It's part of your lawsuit, so you know exactly how much you were paid.
Ma'am.
How much?
$2,057.55.
A month.
Yes,
and when
ma'am.
did you start collecting that?
2014.
Woo!
Caption coming up.
You are a legal stranger, so you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered...
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Ramona and Clayfors.
Ramona Simpson claims her ex-boyfriend's brother, Clayfors McGowan Jr., threw out her personal belongings. Clayfors is countersuing for damage and stolen property.
Okay, so there was a reason why you didn't continue to solemnize the marriage ceremony that you went through in 2013, because you started to collect $2,000 a month from the VA in 2014 that you couldn't have collected were you his wife. That's a yes.
No, it isn't, ma'am.
Oh.
Receiving the benefits from the VA, you have to be a family member. You have to be related to that person in order to get this stipend pay. It wasn't a regular VA payment, and it's for relatives. You have to be a relative for that veteran.
What are you getting? Oh,
Yes, it's true.
Check that,
Pull
Sarah.
up stipend pay for VA, because we're both disabled veterans. It's not like I just had to do this. I loved him, and I cared for him, and he was sick the day I met him.
Just a minute, you both disabled veterans?
Well, my disability was not as crucial as his was.
How much do you collect?
I very minimum, because
Which I asked you a
30%.
question. That's a very minimum.
Yes.
It's not a number.
Yes, it's $300 and some change. But the thing is, Your Honor, may I speak, please? He was sick from the day that I met him, and I was taking care of him prior for that. This was his idea. because he was familiar with the veterans and the system. This was his idea that we can receive funds, and it stayed right in the household. We were living together. It was stayed in the household, and that's okay with them.
I thought you told me a moment ago that you had your own place.
No, not then, ma'am. Not then when we moved back from Vegas, because we stayed in Vegas for approximately 3 years. When we moved back from Vegas, he had purchased a home and everything, and it was supposed to be okay. We were going to be together. But he started living another alternate life, which he was very familiar with because he's introduced him to so many people. I don't even care about that. I still continue to take care of Marcus. It was no longer a romantic situation.
Now you still continue, you had your own place.
I lived both places because he needed me more there than he did when we was living together.
What kind of alternative lifestyle was he doing that he needed you there part-time?
He was seeing other people and
he was
stuff like
seeing
that.
women.
Pardon me?
He was seeing other women.
He was seeing other people, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he was seeing other people. But you, let me finish.
Yes, ma'am.
But you continued to receive the $2,057. You knew you weren't married. That money was coming directly to you. It wasn't coming to him.
Well,
it was coming to you. At what address?
He was giving me a portion from his bank account, and then when we discontinued everything, there was nothing physical. Then I was receiving my full allotment at that point, but I was still taking care of him, taking him to the VA, taking him to the hospital.
Wait just a second. I don't care. Don't go like this and like this. He's a legal stranger to you, and you're getting $2,000 a month to take him to the VA.
Ma'am, he was not a legal stranger.
He was a legal stranger to you. Legal. He was not your mother, father, brother, sister, or husband.
Ma'am, he was a dear friend of me. He continued to be a friend, honestly.
Well,
and he knows that. We went to several places together.
I'm setting up for myself what is the actuality of the situation. Now, I understand that I was really not prepared for this scenario. I was prepared for somebody, quite frankly, Miss Simpson, who had been defrauded by his deceased brother into believing they were married. She took care of him when he was sick. And all of a sudden, now that he's deceased, his brother comes in, kicks her out of the house, and takes all of his property. That's the scenario. But now I understand that that is not the case, that you knew you weren't married, that for 8 years you collected $2,000 a month for taking him to the doctor's offices, to the vet, to taking care of him in the house, but you understood that he was seeing other people, that you didn't have an exclusive relationship. Now I understand it. And you did receive a certain benefit from that because when you moved back from Vegas, you went to your own place because he was having an alternative life that had nothing to do with you. At that point, was the money going to his bank account or yours?
It was going to his bank account, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you say that he notified the government. Part of your lawsuit is for 1 month's check that you say, or 2 months that you didn't get. And you say you didn't get it because he notified the VA or somebody notified the VA. I don't care who notified the VA. What I want to know is, with those checks immediately preceding Mr. McGowan's death, going into his bank account or yours that he had?
His. It was going into Marcus's bank account.
Okay, and he was giving you money from that bank account?
Prior to his death, yes, ma'am.
Right up to the time he got sick and died?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
and how much would he give you?
He would have given me $2,057. $2,000.
All right.
No,
okay,
you mean total?
No,
I'm sorry.
No, I get it. It was not what I thought, but I get it.
Ma'am, may I please say
money owed
something?
for the return of property. What property?
The property, which is my funds. I have jewelry that was missing and clothing that I never received because he kicked out his niece and boarded up the house.
Just a second. Was your brother taken to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
28th of August, 2021.
Okay.
He was nowhere to be found.
Just what?
He wasn't around.
Just a second.
I did that.
Just a second. Did you take him to the hospital?
I had his daughter to call an ambulance. I got to Marcus's house and I followed him to the hospital. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, well, you want to just answer my question? I actually understand the whole scenario. You understand that I do understand the money part. I get it. So when you say his daughter called the ambulance and you got over there from your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who do you live with there?
My daughter and my son.
And in whose name is the lease?
My daughters, my son, and myself.
So all three are on the lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you had a lease at that address?
2017.
Okay, so we're talking about 5 years that you've had an alternative address. You have an answer for me?
There is a Veterans Affairs program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. It says $2,800 a month, but based on a fee schedule that can change. So the 2057 fits within the range.
And does it define family members?
It doesn't define the family caregiver, only that the VA may appoint someone who's part of the primary family caregivers to the veteran, but it doesn't identify who qualifies as a family caregiver.
As a family caregiver. And that's the act that you were under. But you were not a member of his family.
Yes, ma'am.
You were not a member of his family.
Well, it
not
goes
a well.
further than that.
Not
No.
a well. This is not a well. You're living with your daughter, your son, on a lease since 2017. You know he's got an alternative lifestyle that has absolutely nothing to do with you. He was giving you the $2,000 a month. I don't know why. I don't even have to get into
Right,
that.
ma'am,
But
it's
you
up
were
to
not
that individual,
But you
ma'am.
were not a family member. If this is for family,
It does go to the veteran to then give the family caregiver, though.
okay, but you are a legal stranger to him. So you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, it's up to that. It's up to that individual, the veteran, and I know how the procedure goes. It's up to that individual. I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered.
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife. So if he filled out a form and
I'm okay with that, ma'am, because I could have.
Okay, so
went
he had the
further.
right. You were never his wife. He had the right to board up the house, whichever it is, and you weren't living there for 5 years. You had a place. So if you had clothes there and your jewelry, what were your clothes and your jewelry there? If he was
Because
fooling around with other women, why would you leave your clothes and your jewelry in the house?
Okay, ma'am. The thing is, no one has came to the home as another woman in that home. I was always there. He has no proof or evidence that I was not there. So basically, I had their clothes there because I stayed there. I lived there.
Forget it. You were more than compensated with $2,000 a month. What's next?
Caption coming up.
I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Ramona and Clayfors.
Ramona Simpson is accusing defendant Cleefers McCowan Jr. of throwing out her personal belongings.
Okay. Do you have any of her property?
No, ma'am.
Did you dispose of any of her property?
I didn't. She had no property
Just
there.
a second. I don't believe she had any property there either. Anything of value.
And I did.
Okay.
Can I?
Excuse me.
I did find what the VA considers a caregiver. So if you're a spouse, son, daughter, parent, step-family member, or extended family member of a veteran, or if you live full-time with them, or if you're willing to live full-time with them if they designate you as the family caregiver.
So technically,
if you're willing to live with the veteran full-time, you could be qualified as a family caregiver, but it's up to the veteran to declare their own family
caregiver if you live there full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she stated if you were willing to, and I was always willing to.
Okay.
And because
Good. I don't feel as if you were shortchanged, madam, at all. And I don't believe that you had anything of value in the house. So your case is dismissed. Now we're going to get to the second part of your claim. You say she took property from the house?
Yes, ma'am.
What property?
She took jewelry, guns.
What jewelry?
Chains, rings, cufflinks.
Show me.
Entire.
Show me. How am I going to figure that out? You have photographs of things?
Yes, I have some photographs here.
This is so sad.
So sad. You have to put a period and end it. You had a good thing going for 9 years.
Ma'am, the money was paid in the arrears, first of all. So me not getting paid for, and this is really not a big issue to me, what he's saying, because they're all lies, and I'll tell you the truth.
Just say, I'm not saying anything, madam. All I'm saying is you have no case, because I don't believe that somebody who lived in a lifestyle, as you've described, as you've described to me, which is you have your own home, you're on a lease since 2017, where you said to me he had an alternative lifestyle, but I still took him to his VA appointments. I took him, and I was his caregiver, but I lived with my daughter and my son. I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
But
Can I
what
see?
I was stating was also friends, ma'am.
I've decided your case.
I respect that.
Clayfors hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
This is just what had happened to looking for everything that was taken in there.
I don't care. Who cares? What are you showing me? You're showing me that the place is a mess, that somebody went through it?
I'm showing you
I don't
what.
care.
Okay.
I don't care. Prior to his death, when had you seen your brother last?
I had seen him about 5 days prior to that.
You live close by?
I was living in San Diego at the time, and he lived in Highland, which is 79 miles up the 15 freeway.
Okay, so 5 days prior. Prior to the 5 days prior that you saw your brother, when had you seen him before?
We see each other quite frequently. We have family barbecues, this, that, and the other. I'm retired. I go.
Okay, would you return these to him? These don't show me any jewelry.
Okay.
It shows me that the house looked like it was picked through.
Okay. Thank you.
What else?
So quite frequently.
That's it. Did you get a VA benefit from your brother for his insurance?
From the life insurance policy.
Yeah, that's from the VA.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you receive?
$2,600.
Who paid for his funeral?
I did.
How much was that?
$1,100 or $1,200.
So you took some of the insurance money and paid for it?
Yes.
Did he have any other valuable asset?
He had quite a bit of stuff. It's in probate as we speak.
Oh, so case is in probate
It's in probate right now as we speak.
Oh, great. So I don't have to deal with it. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Ramona.
You know what? I have a lot of respect for the judge, but she didn't listen to me.
Well, I'm happy that the judge made the decision that she made.
He's a habitual liar.
Thief. My brother died, and within a half a day went over and burglarized the house.
This is something that he can laugh about, and he's going to go and tell the whole world that I'm still a liar. I'm still a this, that, and the other.
There is quite a bit of items that belong to me that this person stole.
That you can love someone and not be married to them. You can help someone and not be married to them and making love to them. I was genuinely there to help Marcus because I love Marcus.
The devil. You don't want the devil, the devil.
He barred me from the funeral. I didn't fight it because the respect I have for his family and for Marcus. I could have went there. No. I said, you know what? I won't be there.
I hope that she crawls back in the rat hole she came out of and does whatever she does.
Judy and Sarah.
You know what was interesting in that case, Sarah? When I read the complaint and the answer, I had a whole different vision.
Me too.
Of what the arrangement was. And based upon what the defendant wrote in his answer, that his brother, with regard to the marriage, to his brother telling him, I'm too smart, I didn't mail in the papers.
Read like fraud a little bit.
Right.
But she was in on it. She knew. She didn't complete the steps.
She didn't complete the step for a different reason, but she knew
that they weren't legally married.
That they weren't legally married.
Which changes the whole game.
3, 2, 1, go. Three, 2, 1, go. Three, 2, 1, go.